Martin, you've been on a journey to really build your coaching mastery over the past 5 years. What is it that you most love about being a coach?
I think it's the connection with people, Pam. It's the trust you get to build. You get to really connect to people. There's a lot of conversation at the moment about AI and impact on AI and coaching, and I've been recently in a lot of conferences and talks. And what I've realized is that human element, because when people show up in the sessions that they're really vulnerable, they get to share things with you they don't get to share with anyone else because they would judge them or they judge themselves.
Mm,
So when we're able to create a non-judgmental environment, I think they really open up and it's real conversations.
mm,
Um, and I like the realness. Uh,
mm,
I love the trust that it's connected and the learning, of course, the learning is two-sided. It doesn't come just for the client and for the person who's being coached, but it comes for a coach as well. So um, it's the constant exchange and relationship. It's the mutual relationship I love on it.
mm. And so, would you say that coaching is a really formative time in someone's life, being coached?
I think that there's a readiness for a person to come for coaching.
Mm,
You got to be open. You got to be ready for it. You want to be in a place where you want to pull your weight. But I think you can. No, there is not time because, as you know, we've just adopted a little boy, and we get to coach him, and he's only a year and 4 months, and you just coach him in a different way, but you coach him. I was through my career, I've been coaching people going into retirement and
mm.
anything in between. So I think if you put a timestamp on it, I just think any time of your life is good for coaching, but it's this element of your readiness, um,
Yeah.
whether you want to be coached or not.
What's been a transformative coaching experience that you've had with someone?
So I think I think that's few actually, and it depends how you want to look at this. But recently, I helped a CTO in a data organization that works in healthcare to deliver on their strategic narrative around AI, right? To build a political capital, to kind of stakeholder mapping and to be able to get the resources they absolutely needed in order to deliver the results they needed for the organization. And as a result, they saved or they generated $30 million.
Mm,
Um, I work with people, I still work with them. I work with a vice president for EMEA for corporate arm, and it's about shifting everything about how they show up. So this person, she had to fight really hard in her career for the resources. She's a female in a business. She is in a survival mode, and she came a vice president of an organization. At the same time, she's not able to step up to be SVP
mm,
because the way the mindset she holds, it's preventing her from enabling people, from developing others. She's always in operational mode. She has to get involved. She has to have her dents rolled up her sleeves and get in. So the work is around going from operational thinking into much more strategic thinking, seeing a bigger picture, developing people and enabling them to getting those resources for her people. So I think there are just a couple of outcomes that we recently have, but there's so many more.
Is it mostly senior people that benefit from coaching then?
No, I disagree. And maybe that just sounded how I was positioning it, but I think anyone will benefit from coaching at any stage, whether it's a first-time manager and you planning at first 90 days of their career, how they show up, developing how they push themselves from micromanaging style into be much more non-directive and again enabling people, helping people to problem solve and decision make rather than telling people what to do and how to do it. So it's going to be first time manager. It can be individual contributors where they feel that they stuck in their daily tasks to do and just not being able to get themselves on a front foot. So again, you help them. I've been working with people to negotiate salaries, to lean into conversations and have a really tough conversations with their leaders so they can get what they need and give them a feedback because we know that there's not enough feedback in organizations. So how do you support people to go there into
Mm,
those conversations without sense of being humiliated or ridiculed.
Mm. What do you believe is in your own experience that helps you be a great coach?
Thing is that connection to people, the human element, is the conversations. Are we asking about expertise here, or is it about expertise, tools, or
Yeah, like what is it that you've had in your career, and maybe to what can anybody be a coach? What's the sensitivity that you bring to your relationships that facilitates this success for your clients?
understanding a human nature, understanding the potential? I think it's about believing in people that they already have that they have what they need in order to succeed. It's you and I know, Pam, that it's about that belief that 80% of answers comes from all people.
Mm,
Um, it's about kind of because of the situation that they find themselves in, the experiences that they have. The tap is closed. All we have to do is open the tap so it starts to run, the water starts to run through, and
mm.
all that potential is at their disposal.
So for many of the people that come to Thrive, they've never worked with a coach before. It's maybe a first experience. How do you describe to them about what a professional coach does?
How do I describe what professional coach does? So what professional coach does is that they sit in a room together. It's about coming to the room together. It's the thinking. It's providing that space to create a moment for people to look on what's happening, what's playing out. It's very different to coach. It's very different to mentoring, to consultations, to therapy, right?
Mm,
Mentoring, it's dependent on experience, expertise, and a wisdom of a mentor.
mm,
Right? They've been there, they've done it, they won the shirt, and they kind of sharing their experience about what's best for them. The challenge with mentoring sometimes is that their experiences and their solutions doesn't necessarily apply for people
mm,
because they have a different experiences in life. They've got a different mindset. They have a different values and beliefs.
mm,
So their way might not be the best way for them, right? Mentoring often doesn't help people to problem solve and decision make,
mm,
right? And I think coaching does that because it's not about what coach knows, what they experience, what the wisdom is, but it's help people to solve problems. It's about bringing these problems on a table, looking at them from left to right, from every single angle, um, and help them to problem solve. So after the coaching session, after the coaching engagement, the person kind of develops their own inner coach within them so they can problem solve in the future. They can make decisions better
mm.
based on what they learn on practical examples and coaching sessions. I think that's what coaching does.
So typically, what would you do on a first session with somebody that's coming to you and they're saying, Martin, I don't really know what to expect. I'm feeling a bit nervous because I don't really know what I should be saying. I'm not exactly clear. What would you do in a first session with someone?
I would ask them, what are they unsure of? I would go straight into coaching. I think it's understanding what's holding them back, where the nervousness sits, what is it that they need to know. I think it's very, very personal about what's holding people back and where the nervousness is. Um, what I spend time doing in my I also don't think that coaching is one-off session. I think it's a relationship. It's an ongoing engagement. It takes 3, 4 sessions and even more to
Mm,
get people really going. Although you can have a really good conversation in one session, but the first session is about building rapport, getting to know each other, understanding the belief system, understanding what holds that person back, playing
mm,
it back to them. Uh, it's ensuring that we design what do we want for our relationship to work and how we're going to work together. What is it that works for people? Um, that's what I do in the first session.
yeah, and some of it is just inviting people to talk, isn't it? Saying, how are you? What's going on for you today? Can actually help people talk about what's most front of mind in the moment that they're not being asked to report on what they've got done or where they are in a certain project, but just to talk about how they are. And it's quite interesting for people to hear that. Some people are really skeptical about whether or not you can achieve anything of any significance in a 30-minute coaching session. What's your experience?
I think you absolutely do, because people often ask what's the breakthrough, what the biggest breakthroughs, and what the biggest impact is. And actually, I think that breakthrough and biggest impact, it's such a big of a word, because that breakthrough is usually really small. It's
Mm,
tiny. It's 1% change.
mm,
People who come to coaching sessions, they're already great. They're successful. They're where they are because they worked really hard. And it's
mm,
not about changing their life 180%. It's about finding that little piece, what's holding them back. So 30-minute conversation can be really profound in a way of finding out what that blocker is. And it really is not about sharing along strategies or anything, but rather for a person to listen to themselves as they're speaking. It's about seeing what's happening, what's playing out, and kind of allow them to see it, hear it, sense it, so they can come up with their own strategy of what they need to do, that 1%. So yeah.
And typically, what's your experience of the ideal duration of a coaching relationship? How many conversations do you think are the most impactful?
So I've been experiencing multiple models. I
Yeah,
think coaching, engagement, and relationship takes time. I
yeah,
think one of conversation can be really impactful conversation and a great demonstration of what coaching can do for you. The
mm,
real richness and the meaning comes in 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions. The
mm,
way I typically work with clients nowadays, Pam, I meet them for a first month. I meet them weekly. So we
mm,
build the cadence, we build the momentum. So we have a 4 sessions back to back week. And then we revisit at the end of the month. We look at the cadence. Is this still the best way for working for you? And sometimes they people, yeah, I want to definitely continue weekly meetings.
mm,
And sometimes they say, you know what, actually, I've got now things I want to take, I want to apply, I want to stress, I want to press, I want
mm,
to use them. I like to see you every 2 or 3 weeks. So I
mhm,
think that the cadence naturally reduces with the time, because, and that's the profound benefit of coaching.
mm,
It's that you enable people, and when they're ready to go, they go on their own,
mm.
and they can apply what they're learning in the sessions.
What are if you had like the top 3 or 4 topics that people bring to coaching, what are they?
I think it depends on the level people, the people that the coach works with.
Mm,
So it would be unfair to just focus on one targeted audience.
mm,
But if I start with the first time managers and new people in organizations,
mm,
it's really finding the groove. It's typically, how do I show up? Who am I as a manager? Who do I want to be? How do I work with my team? How do I have difficult conversations with my leaders? How do I secure resources and get what I need for our job to be successful? How my first 90 day looks like.
mhm,
But we start to move to the more senior roles. I think it's about moving and shifting from the manager mindset of this is being responsible for the tasks, opposed to being responsible for creating environment for people to be able to deliver on those tasks. So it's that enablement piece. It's about, how do I enable my people? How do I develop them?
mm,
And more seniors stepping up. I do think it's about building political capital. I think it's about being political correctness. It's about stakeholder mapping,
mm,
understanding where you can make an impact. How do you influence, and how do you get those resources for the departments, divisions, or areas or regions where
mm.
you're working in?
Yeah, yeah. So, if we ponder a little bit about individual coaching themselves and maintaining some of the momentum outside of the conversations, what are 1 or 2 things that you think an individual can take to almost start thinking about like a coach and exploring their own potential for themselves?
Yeah. Um, I think it's the way coaches communicate, right? Because for me, coaching is nothing else rather than conversational style. It's a philosophy. So people come for coaching, they have a coaching session, second, third. They start to be able to build that hat they can wear later on their own.
Mm,
I think is the way we as coaches, we ask questions.
mm,
So we help to look from different perspectives, different perceptions. It's typically when a client tells me I'm going to the left, I'm like, well, what's on the right and why right is not good enough? So you kind of going the opposite. So you're stressing. What else people learn in coaching a session is to catch themselves and hear themselves on contradictions.
Mm.
It's like, hey, Pam, on one end you say this, on the other end you say that. What's the truth for you? And as you look at those things, what does it tell you? So I think it's that reflection piece. And the third piece I think that people take away from coaching is creating a habit for themselves to create a thinking time.
Mm.
Because we find ourselves busy in a day-to-day rhythm of our work, of demand, of different agendas.
Mm.
And I think the main and crucial benefit that people find in coaching is literally stop, pause, think, look at it, right? And think about it. And it takes half an hour. That's to your point, 30-minute conversation can absolutely do that. And, for different people, it works differently, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, or evening,
Mm.
it doesn't matter. But unless you have a time to think about how you approach things, we're just busy doing. We're not busy enough thinking.
Yeah, there's that act of almost getting on top of the mountain and getting out of it, isn't there? And then there's the two core questions: what's not sitting comfortably with me, and what do I want instead? And it's kind of get yourself into a position where you're away and look at both sides, look at the dark side and look at the bright side. And it's that act of knowing what you need to leave behind and what you're moving towards, that gives you that capacity to be able to define that really compelling thing that you want to be able to get that shift.
Mm.
So do you have a favorite coaching success story?
You're probably not going to like my answer, and I don't know about people who are listening to this, but my success stories are not defined what people achieve, but what it means for me. So my favorite success story would be where, okay, once a client called me and I said, Martin, I need to cancel our session for today. I don't need to talk to you. I was like, what are you talking about? And I said, no, 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 Martin, this is not bad. I'll pay for the session, but I want to cancel because I've been asking myself for the last 20 minutes about what would Martin do? What would he ask me? How would he stress the conversation?
Mm.
And I found the answers for myself. So I just need the time back to go and do it.
Nice.
And I'm like, job done. Perfect. I love it.
Yeah,
Um,
coached.
so
Able to do it for himself.
yeah, so I think that's a success for me is when people show up and they say, okay, I can go and I can do it myself now.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah. And that's the aim, isn't it? To get people so they can stand on their own feet with that level of curiosity and reflection and be able to ask the questions and go through cycles where it's useful to check in with a coach. You're a lifelong advocate of coaching and
Mm.
of learning, Martin. What do you get from your relationships with your coach?
I think it's important everyone gets a coach.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes I get stuck on a piece of work that I work with a client, right? Um, the difficult dynamics, people find themselves in tricky situations. So what I find important with a relationship with a coach is we know coaches are not indifferent, Pam.
Mm.
Sometimes there's just too much going on. Sometimes you're delivering 8, 9 sessions a day and you just need to slow down. It's so what I get from my coach is slowing down. It's looking at the world on my world from a different perspective. It's seeing the bigger picture. We say jumping in the helicopter and hovering above the ground to see what's playing out. Um, it doesn't say anything about quality of your coaching. It just says that the mind is busy, it's occupied, and it gets in a way.
Mm.
So what it does for me is having a place where I can see it, and
Mm.
it's a place where no one's going to judge me. It's a place where I've got the freedom to say whatever is on my mind.
Mm. What's in your professional background that's helped you get ready or get to this point? Do you think that it's important to have that professional foundation to be able to be a coach?
There are multiple ways how to get to be a good coach, and to build the mastery on coaching. I think it's on one end, it's important to have a history in corporate organ. If you, it depends by who you want to work with, right? I do believe that you do need to have a life experiences in the segment where you want to be working with. So if we talk about corporate and professional environments, managers, leaders, and organizations, I think you do need to have a degree living in that environment
Mm,
for some time,
mm,
right? Depends on what level you get to. It doesn't mean necessarily that it prevents you and prohibits you from working with people on a much higher levels than you've achieved.
mm,
I spent a lot of time in the last year working with executives, with directors, with vice presidents. I've never reached those positions or levels in organizations,
mm,
but being able to coach them and using that coaching philosophy with them, they invite you to that place. They tell you, they share the stories, and you relive it with them. You kind of listening to the stories. So you acquire that experience. It's a secondhand experience,
mm,
which kind of makes it equally important because you're not buried in those politics. You're not buried in those pressures that these people have. You
yeah,
actually start to see the way through.
mm. Yeah, and
Not just
there was a phenomenon called, yeah, reverse mentoring, reverse coaching that happened 20, 30 years ago, and it's still popular. Not as many organizations use it, but it's that capacity to not be contaminated with what can work and what can't work. There's that healthy perspective of what could be tried here, what else would work, what could we bring, what about if we were to explore. And you need that fresh thinking, and that fresh thinking comes from someone that understands organizations and individuals and not just the level of the role. So I agree with you.
so but on your point, like what's the experiences? So I've been in the role of being a head of department. I've been in the roles where leading teams. I think those experiences are incredibly useful as well, right? I wouldn't remove the importance of it. So I think coaches do need to live through the experiences that they clients to come to them.
Yeah.
Um, but what also enriches my own experience lately, and it's incidental. I started to work with a lot of people with neurodiversity.
Mm,
And as someone who has neurodiversity and ADHD diagnosed 25 years ago, I think when you combine that experience with an art of coaching,
mm,
you can make quite miracles with people.
mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and you can help them to make shortcuts, and you can actually see because you can see the patterns, you can see the strategy. So my answer is just complex and it's two-sided, right? I think both of them are good ways to do it. I think you need experience, but you can also do it by talking to people.
Yeah. Quite a lot of the change comes from an individual being coached at the right time for something that they must change or something that they want. And I think those are prerequisites, isn't it? And the coach, if I think about my experience as a coach, it's that capacity to be really interested in that, in what that person wants to achieve, and to really want to be there to support them in that journey. And it gives you a lot, doesn't it? What keeps you motivated as a coach?
And you know me, I'm very fascinated by learning, right? I studied organizational learning, organizational psychology, neuroscience for learning.
Mm,
And coaching puts you in the space of learning.
mm,
So I think that's one of my highest motivations. And second is the desire to create better human beings. Just
mm,
I think that if we can each improve by 2, 3% or 1% of the golden 1% rule, right? If we can
mm.
all be improving 1% every day at the end of the year, we'd be much better.
Yeah.
And not just individually, but us as society, as people, we'd be thinking in a much better places. We're not going to be sorting out the trivial things that we tend to be drawn to every single day. So I hope for progress and for evolution and for bettering things. And I think
Mm,
coaching does that with
mm.
people and with all of us.
Yeah. As ever, Martin, you're utterly sensational. It's been delightful talking with you today, and I know our coachees will enjoy hearing some of your experience and your insight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben, for the time.